Yeah, in case Grandpa comes up here in the middle of these, he just walks in. He's like, "What are you guys doing?"
Are you guys on TV?
And he don't care. He just asks his questions. He does not care.
That's funny.
You're listening to GrazeCast, a show that shares the secrets to selling perishable food products online. The show and advice is brought to you by the team at Seven Sons, which is an 8-figure e-commerce business that started completely from scratch. Each episode, we bring you one topic, 3 strategies, and one tangible resource to continue your learning and put you on the fast track in your own e-commerce journey. Let's begin.
Okay, we'll just start 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening and welcome back to another episode of GrazeCast. My name is Brooks Hitzfield with Seven Sons and GrazeCart. And as always, I'm joined with my brother, Blaine, CEO of Seven Sons. Blaine, it's always good to record another one of these. And
yes, excited for this one here.
This is going to be a fun episode because we have a very special guest. We have, it's Gabe Movie Star Brown is joining us today. Let's see, we got this. Yeah. Gabe, it's good to have you with us.
It's great to be here today. Always a pleasure to come to Seven Sons.
So this episode's going to be a little bit different. I know we've always kind of stuck to the top 3 on a certain topic, but since we have Gabe with us, we're knew
breaking the rules.
We can't hold it just to one topic. He's a wealth of knowledge, so we got to take this wherever it can go. So
sure, put the pressure on.
Yes.
So, we know a lot of you who listen to this who are probably a producer, you'd love to have the opportunity to sit across the table with Gabe Brown. So we're going to try to do our best to ask the interesting questions and, see where this goes. So Blaine, do you maybe want to start this off by talking a little bit how we first met Gabe Brown and where that all started?
Yeah, I would say about 10 years ago, Gabe, your name just started surfacing everywhere. And a lot of it was with row crop farmers around here. They ask us, have you heard of Gabe Brown, what he's doing on his ranch and his farm? And then we had got involved in the grass-fed exchange. And I think it was it the 4th grass-fed exchange?
2012.
2012, it was hosted at your ranch, your farm. Or was that the...
No, I met you in 2012 in Nebraska.
We did.
At
Okay.
That one.
Okay. And then it was, what year was the
2013, it was at my place.
2013, the grass-fed exchange at your place. And I kind of feel like that was a good, we connected at that conference and we did serve, I think, on the board. No, you got off the board, the grass-fed exchange, and I had just gotten on there. Right. But made a lot of connections there and have been working with Paul, with your guys' direct marketing operation. But it's been a pleasure, and you guys, Alan, Understanding Ag, the whole team has just been been working with you guys for I know quite a while, and as we were just talking today, and you're here in Roanoke because we just did a soil health school focused on marketing.
That's right.
That was a lot of fun. But for people that may not be familiar with Brown's Ranch, Nourished by Nature, do you want to get a quick overview? I know you got started in '91, but give us a quick overview of what this has been like for you.
Sure. So my wife and I purchased the 5,000-acre ranch from her parents in 1991, and we operated it conventionally. And then after a couple years, I'm not from a farm, so I was always looking at new ideas, new technology, etc. And no-till was really catching on, and it just made sense. Sold all of my tillage equipment and went no-till. Then we went through a period, 1995 through 1998. We lost our crop 3 of those 4 years to hail, and the other year to drought. So I tell people that was very, very difficult to live through that, with no crop income for 4 years, but it was absolutely the best thing that could have happened to us because it sent me on a path of learning how do ecosystems really function and what do I need to do as a farmer rancher to enhance the natural process and work with nature instead of against her. And I guess the rest is just my story of a journey.
And we were talking today about how so many times it takes that major life disruption to finally get your attention. And I love what you say all the time, the quote, or I don't know whose quote it was, about if you want to make small changes, change how you do things. If you want to make big changes, change how you see things.
Yeah, that was a quote from Don Campbell, a rancher in Alberta, Canada.
And that's what it took for you, those years of losing the crops. So.
Yeah, I actually heard that quote at a conference in 1997. I just lost our 3rd crop. And when I heard that quote, it changed my life. It just stuck with me, and I realized it was on me.
Yep.
It was on me, and I like to tell people, your farm, your ranch is a direct reflection of you. If it's not what you like, then why don't you change it?
Yep.
And that's what I had to do. I had to change the way I saw things. I had to become an observer, and that sent me down this regenerative path. Of course, back then, nobody talked about regenerative agriculture, and I was only trying to save the farm, keep the banker at bay,
Who coined the term? How did that even come? How did the word regenerative rise to the surface? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, it would really come about from Rodale.
Yeah.
He coined that many, many years ago, and then it kind of wasn't used. And then I give credit to Ray Archuleta for really resurfacing it and starting to talk about regenerative back. Ray first came to my place in 2007, and it changed his life, and now he's known as Ray the Soil Guy and one of our partners at Understanding Ag.
How did you're known all over the world. How did it go from just you on your farm
Yeah, where was the spark?
Yes, what?
I tell people, Gabe Brown really isn't very smart, but I know a lot of smart people, and I met the right people at the right time. I could go through a list of them, but one that I really need to give credit to is Jay Fear, who it was our district conservationist with NRCS at the time. He was working with me on a number of grazing projects we were doing on the ranch, moving down to, at that time we called it rotational grazing, now we call it amp grazing. And he saw the changes in my soil, and he will tell you that it changed his career and his path. And you always need those mentors who push you. And Jay would always say, yeah, Gabe, what you're doing, but you could do better. And
Yep.
One thing, you say that to Gabe Brown, I'm going to do better. And so that was a real spark, and I met people like David Brandt and Ray Archuleta and Dr. Chris Nichols, and I really like how you need to associate yourself with like-minded people. And that's what I did. I love a challenge, and I love learning new things. And, here I am, almost 60 years old, and I just wake up loving every day because I'm going to learn something new every day, and that makes it fun. And regenerative agriculture is that way. It's fun, and it's engaging, and you work with life instead of death, and that's just a joy.
So I know we're going to go deeper down talking about regenerative ag, some opportunities that are there. And most of our listeners or producers are probably well familiar with the term, but anyone who's not, how would you define regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, so what I look at it is I think of it as a renewal of a food and farming system that works with nature to improve the water cycle, the mineral cycle, the nutrient cycle, the health of the land, while improving farm and ranch profitability and the community dynamics, the dynamics of the family and the next generation, and then our community. And that's where consumers are brought in, is because their health is directly correlated to the health of the land that their food is grown in and on.
And you're at the grassroots of this and on kind of the inside. Tell us a little bit about the exposure that regenerative ag is getting and kind of the growth that we're seeing around that and what's driving that. I know we talked a little bit about that at the event today, but just for the listeners as well, what are you seeing?
Those of us who, David Brandt and I often talk about that. Many people know David Brandt from Carroll, Ohio, longtime no-tiller, no-tiller since the 70s, cover crop since the late 70s. And we talk about how way back then we were on an island, we were alone,
Yep.
For crying out loud, I was going to the library and looking up cover crops under the Dewey Decimal System. That's how old we were. Al Gore hadn't invented the internet yet, so it was slow to start, but particularly the last 3-4 years, it's just warp speed. Those of us involved in regenerative agriculture feel like we're strapped to a spaceship, and just going 1,000 miles an hour. It's unbelievable.
And there's the book, Dirt to Soil, and that came out when
2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's movie star Gabe Brown, author Gabe Brown.
That's right. That's right. Tell us about the book. What's been the reception, and what are the opportunities that's brought?
Well, I was approached by a number of publishers to write a book on my story. And I told them, I'm not a writer. I don't have time. So then finally had one that convinced me. Chelsea Green convinced me, yeah, you need to write this story. So it was released 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and they let me know it's been the #1 selling agriculture book on Amazon for 24 straight months.
Congrats.
And that I would have never I would have never believed. And all that is my story. Yep. It's just what I went through and what I learned along the way and the people I met. Mm-hmm. It's a simple story. Yep. And so now Dr. Alan Williams and I are working on a sequel book on Regenerative.
I heard a rumor about that. We had Alan on the podcast a month ago or so, and got that rumor. So. Yeah. And then not only the book, but there has been the film "Kiss the Ground," which I know I've watched that you've made appearance on that, and who else was on there? Obviously, Ray was a rock star. Yep. So tell
Alan
us.
got left out. How did that happen?
Yeah, we're like, Alan, what happened?
We didn't tell him about it.
Kept it a secret.
Realized that movie was actually filmed. It started 5 years ago. It was the first time they filmed me for that movie. And they filmed Ray and I on site in Oklahoma doing some work, Ray in Kansas doing some work. Then they came to my ranch in North Dakota and filmed for almost a week up there. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, they came back and filmed some more up there. And it was a journey. It was one that started out to be about healthy food. And then Ray showed them the importance of soil, and I give Josh and Rebecca Tickell world of credit because they really learned along the way and expanded the movie to where it really is a soil health, plant health, animal health, human health connection.
So talk about who was all involved in that, and I mean how it came to be. I know there was many folks backing it.
Yeah, and what it was really was it started out with the organization Kiss the Ground. They wanted to tell the story of the importance of healthy food and how that healthy food has grown. And so they formed an alliance with Josh and Rebecca to produce this film. And Josh and Rebecca are award-winning my mind's blank.
Film producers.
Film producers, excuse me. Yep. And then they had, in their research, they came across Ray the Soil Guy. Yeah. And they reached out to Ray Archuleta, and then Ray, they came and filmed him in Kansas, and Ray told him, well, you need to go to Gabe's ranch. And so that's how I got involved with it.
So that came out on Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. What was that? I'm trying to remember how long ago that was from.
Yeah, it was just a month ago.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so how has that? What are you hearing? I mean, are you guys? What's the buzz?
It's obviously you have a few critics, but for every critic, there's 99 positive testimonials to it, and daily. I'll probably average a couple hundred emails a day about that and about the the difference it's made and what an impression made. And I know Ray averages a lot more than that, but he's better looking than me, so that's to be expected.
So is that opening up new opportunities?
It is. Our business, Understanding Ag, we saw a marked increase in the hits on our website and the interest. I think it goes along. It's kind of the perfect storm we're seeing these last 3 or 4 years, and it's building. And COVID has even built on that and accelerated it even more because, this film came out in the midst of COVID. Well, people were searching for that. Where do we find nutrient-dense food to drive our health? Well, that movie was a perfect opportunity then. It just showed that, hey, you need to source your food from farms and ranches that are using these regenerative practices. And so we're seeing a big increase from consumers, but also industry. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing how industry now is focusing on, hey, this is the path we need to go for a variety of different reasons.
So that's something I think it would be nice to talk about a little bit deeper. Can you talk a little bit about Understanding Ag, kind of the work you guys are doing, who you guys are working with, and the growth you're seeing around?
And the long-term vision.
Yeah. So along with Ray Archuleta, Dr. Alan Williams, and Shane New, the four of us partners came together, and we were all going down the regenerative path. We all farm and ranch ourselves, and we wanted to see this vision expanded. We wanted to educate. We're primarily an education-based organization. Now, shortly after we formed, we realized that we needed a nonprofit. So that's Soil Health Academy, and that's what occurred the last 3 days here in Roanoke, in a wonderful event where we go around and we teach these regenerative principles along with and on farms and ranches that are using these regenerative practices. And that's why we were at Seven Sons as one of the locations. Now, Understanding Ag is a for-profit consulting group. So we consult on farms, ranches, for businesses, for organizations, government entities, whoever wants to learn about regenerative agriculture. We will teach them, and it's us four partners, and we tell everyone, Kathy Richburg, our Director of Operations, she's the boss of the whole thing.
Yep.
And then we have a whole cadre of consultants. These are very experienced farmers and ranchers themselves who go work with our clients. And then we also have a very important cadre of technical advisors, world-renowned technical advisors. And we're very, very fortunate that we've been able to attract some of the smartest, brightest people in the world. So, as I said earlier, we're not very intelligent, but we know a lot of smart people.
Yep.
So I think people listening to us and kind of follow us are obviously going down this direct marketing journey. So can you speak to that a little bit when it comes to regenerative agriculture? For those of us who are selling pasture proteins, say that we're practicing regenerative standards, is it too early to be speaking to the consumer and bringing awareness around regenerative ag? Is there enough awareness out there where we're seeing consumer reception to this now? Or where do you guys feel on that?
I remember back to the early days. You never heard about regenerative agriculture, like we said. Now, I was just reading a food industry publication that said that no other term has caught on as fast as the word regenerative. And they're talking about, because it brings so much to the table. And I tell people, I don't care if your interest is in farm profit, if your interest is in climate change, if your interest is in water quantity or quality, or your interest is in human health. Regenerative agriculture can address all of those. And along with that, then, it brings back community. The community of the family on the farm and ranch, the community at large as far as the consumers. Regenerative agriculture can play a part in all this. So why not work together on the 80% of the things we can agree on?
So what do you think about the future of regenerative agriculture? We've kind of seen organic that became popular for a while. And we talked about this at the event a little bit more, but just for those who are listening, organic feels like it's kind of it grew in popularity. Now a lot of people are kind of getting off of that, term as a label, and we know that accounts for very little of the farm ground. Is there a reason why you believe regenerative agriculture won't become another, organic type label and way of farming?
That's a great question. And the reason I believe that this is so powerful is we can regenerate all landscapes, ecosystems, community dynamics, the family, our communities and our countries. And I don't care where you live in the world. Regenerative is a positive. Who doesn't want to regenerate something? It means renewal. It means life. It's so positive, and that's just a great way to go through life with that positive attitude, working with nature rather than against her.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about earlier today at the school. Never have we seen a movement with so much momentum coming from so many different directions, whether it's an environmental movement, a consumer movement, nutrient-dense food, or just farmers that want their kids to inherit their farm and a future for the next generation.
So I was just going to say, still on the marketing side, though, what about, for those of us who are direct marketing, what about a label? Is a label coming for regenerative agriculture?
Is that the answer? And how does it not get greenwashed and watered down?
Yeah.
As we see major companies.
You know that a label will happen somewhere along the line from some company. In saying that, like you take our ranch and the Nourished by Nature label. No, we believe it's trust between us and our customers, the consumers. We have an open door policy on our ranch, just like you do here at Seven Sons.
Yep.
Anyone can walk on it anytime and look at anything. That builds trust. They trust us. They trust the food that we produce. And so I often tell people, they ask, well, Gabe, why aren't you organic? Because I would easily qualify.
Yep.
And I said, what value does it bring to my operation? Now, I'm not belittling it for those it adds value to. But for me, we're selling our products higher than organic prices.
Yep.
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 And yet we're providing real value. We're providing nutrient-dense foods to our customers.
Do you predict some greenwashing coming down the road in the next 5 to 10 years?
No doubt there will be.
Yep.
No doubt. But you know what? I don't worry about that because I'm not in competition with any of them. My belief is that if you're advancing the ecosystem forward, if you really have your customer's best interest at heart, it's going to sort things out. So let it be what it be. I can only control my own operation.
Yeah. This is what we talk to people about a lot too, because greenwashing, and as farmers and producers, sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in that and get really frustrated with what happens. That is not unique to our industry. Every industry deals with marketing claims and people taking that as far as it can and misleading the consumer. It's not unique to us. The biggest thing, I think, is just to not let it draw your attention to it and take focus away from serving your customer.
Keep your eye on the ball, your farm and your why, like you were talking about.
Yep. We often get asked, well, why are you out sharing this story? Man, those others are competition. No, I want everyone, every farm family to be regenerative. I want them all to be producing, raising, growing nutrient-dense foods. That's good for their family. It's good for society. It's good for all. Yep.
So I know, and I don't know how many specifics you can share, but I know from policymakers have been in touch with you guys, governments from many places. What would you tell somebody if a policymaker, for example, whether it was a U.S. policymaker, if they came to you and said, Gabe, what are the 3 things we can do from a government level? What would you tell them?
Yeah, and it just so happens that we've had conversations with both the Biden team and the Trump team, this election. And our belief is we want to share this with everyone. Regardless of their political beliefs, religious beliefs, doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to us. And so we were asked that very same question. And they said, if this is so good, why doesn't everybody do it? And I said, well, 2 reasons. Number 1 is fear. Farmers and ranchers get it pounded into them all the time. They have to do things the same way. They have to use X amount of fertilizer and chemical and pesticides and fungicides and plant this GMO seed. It's just ingrained in them. So it's kind of a fear of the unknown when they stop doing that. But the other thing I tell every policymaker is the most antagonistic thing there is to regenerative agriculture is the current farm program here in the United States. I'm talking in the United States. Because the majority of farmers and ranchers need an operating loan in order to put the crop in the ground every year. Well, their bank is not going to give them that operating loan unless they take part in the federal farm program and get revenue insurance. And that's what's holding it up. Now, the beauty of that is right now, last we added up, Understanding Ag's consulting on about 22 million acres across North America.
That's incredible.
Which is a lot of acres. And we're very proud of the fact that we've moved the needle on almost all operations, adding positive net return the very first year.
The first year.
And the way we do that is through education. So that's what I try and get across to the policymakers. This is an educational problem. NRCS had a lot of good programs out there, Natural Resource Conservation Service, but they didn't have the education to go with it. Once you pulled away that carrot, so to speak, that financial incentive, why would the farmers and ranchers continue with it? Because they didn't have the education as to why they need to do this.
So definitely, I've heard about the attention you guys have gained from major policymakers. What about on the Ag Grant University front? Any progress there? Are we catching any attention?
We got their attention, but we have to realize with land grant universities, They get their funding by doing research that's paid for by companies, businesses, etc. Okay, what company or business is going to fund regenerative agriculture when you're working with nature? Right. Now, in saying that, 2.5 years ago, well, the story started about 5 years ago. A team from General Mills came to my ranch to learn about what I was doing, and it was their head of sustainability. And evidently that made an impression on them, because then when we started Soil Health Academy, 2 individuals from that team came and attended a Soil Health Academy. Well, it was less than 2 months later, I got an email from them. They wanted to visit with us. So we've signed an agreement with General Mills that they are paying for the one-on-one consultation with farmers to move them down the regenerative path. We started with 49 oat growers in North Dakota, Minnesota, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. Now it's moved into Kansas. Just today I had a conversation with them. They want to move into Wisconsin and Illinois, perhaps. And we're working on large dairies in Michigan. Now realize General Mills does not buy directly from the farmers and ranchers, but they know that the quality of the product, that the quality of the grains they buy from those grain terminals is directly dependent on those farmers and ranchers both producing high quality product from healthy soil, but also those farmers and ranchers need to be profitable to stay in business. So, you know, I can't say enough about General Mills. When you walk into their headquarters, right on the wall it's painted, regenerative agriculture is the future.
Wow. Are you serious?
And it's a company belief. When you park in their parking lot and walk up the drive, they have cover crops planted along that walkway with tags telling what they are, because they're trying to educate their employees. That's how much they believe in this.
There's a groundswelling coming. I mean, you see it every day. I know on our end here, you know, we work with Whole Foods on the eggs. We were invited to a meeting to train their leadership team on regenerative agriculture. I'm thinking, we're just farm kids from Indiana, and we're but they are they feel behind. A lot of these food companies feel behind, and they don't know, they can't turn to many places to learn about it, so they're inviting farmers. 2 years ago, we went down to Atlanta to meet with the Amazon team, their leadership team, and they just wanted to learn from the farmers because they couldn't learn it anywhere else. What's going on? What is this movement about?
Yeah, and since we signed that agreement with General Mills, we have been contacted by a number of multinationals to help lead their teams down the regenerative path. So it's very exciting.
So on that note, as this is gaining attention from a lot of big names, and you know they're believing that it's the future as well. For people listening who are direct marketing, I know there might be people listening. Is that good or bad for us who are trying to go direct to consumer? And is there still going to be market share left when these, you know, bigger names start turning and offering products that, you know, we have to offer?
Yeah, how would you speak to that question?
Yeah, and I look at that as nothing but positive, because those large companies, they have the monies to build awareness. So they will help educate consumers as to the importance of purchasing their food from those who are using these practices. But then we know as farmers and ranchers that who better can produce a high quality product and offer a high quality product than us right there on the farm or ranch. So I look at it as a total positive.
We will always be able to outcompete the larger scale operations with higher quality. We'll be at the next level sooner because we're smaller, we're agile, and we can build trust faster. So we're always going to compete in those economies.
And we've always said this, you know, as the awareness grows, that helps everybody who's doing this. We're talking about this at the event today. You know, a lot of us look at large brands like ButcherBox who are selling grass-fed beef online as competitors, but you know, actually what they have done is they've just helped the consumer get more familiar with buying frozen perishable products online, because that was something that a lot of people had anxiety with. Now that more people are used to doing that, they're more likely to turn directly to a farm as you continue down this path. So if you look at it as competition, it's really not. It's making the consumer more aware, and it's going to help with everyone.
As we're talking about the consumer, a obviously what's in it for them, more nutrient dense foods. Can you talk about some of the research that's going on around looking at and researching the nutrient density of food grown on regenerative soils?
Absolutely. Well, let me tie that into General Mills. So right now we're on almost 90 farms with working with General Mills. General Mills is paying to measure the nutrient density in those grains being produced on those farms. And so that's a positive. Those farmers are getting that information out there. Okay, Understanding Ag this past year worked with an individual, a very well-known individual, Dr. David Montgomery, who wrote the book Dirt,
Yeah.
who wrote the book Growing a Revolution. And he had our team go out on farms and ranches, and what we did is we found a regenerative farm or ranch, and then a neighbor that was willing to cooperate. We grew the same a grain, the same vegetable, the same pastured protein on both those operations, okay? And then we tested those foods for nutrient density. And those results will be released when Dr. Montgomery's book comes out here sometime in the spring, I believe.
So is that the same? And I also heard Dr. Alan Williams talking about the research with Duke University. Is that
no,
something?
that's another totally different project. So what we're doing with Dr. Stephen Van Vliet, Dr. Fred Provenza, and Dr. Scott Kronberg, Dr. Stephen Van Vliet is with Duke University, we're actually trying to secure funding where we'll be doing human trials. So we're going to take pastured proteins that are grown on a regenerative farm along with vegetables, grains, etc. And we're going to feed those to one group of test subjects, humans, for 21 days. Meanwhile, another group gets food grown in, quote unquote, the conventional mindset. During this time, we're going to measure with a mass spectrometer. Dr. Van Vliet will measure all the phytonutrients in these foods. So we have that. Then there will be blood work taken every week. Then we'll take, after the 3 weeks, a week off, and then we'll switch. And they'll consume the other.
Okay.
And once we get this project funded, we are pretty confident of it's going to show.
Well, and you've already got so much momentum, this groundswelling happening, and that's without research like this yet. So General Mills already knows the benefits of this. They already believe and know, but just wait until some of this research begins to surface.
And this is going to be scientific research that can hold up to peer review. We know when that comes out, that'll be a major game changer. You know, we've already seen greater than a 20% increase in the pastured protein business for 20 straight years. Now with COVID, it accelerated beyond that. Think of this next step then. Because most people are concerned about their health. They just don't realize what's out there and available to them. And we have to prove that, to be honest. Those of us in regenerative agriculture, we do need to prove that first. And there's no company out there that's really going to pay for that. You know, so it's up to us to fund that.
Well, yeah, there is. If you're listening and you're in the food business, you need to be watching this and getting involved, positioning yourself, because it's a revolution, and that is, there's no better time to position yourself before a revolution. That's when major
that's where you
things
can ride the wave.
That's exactly right, and that's what I was going to say. Those of you thinking of going down the direct marketing path, you need to start on it now. You need to work on regenerating your soils. That doesn't happen overnight. But the higher quality and more advanced your soils are, the higher the nutrient density in the products that you're going to produce.
So if you want to position yourself now for a wave that we all feel and see coming, start on the soil.
That's what makes it's like the dark horse secret effect to a lot of these businesses that will grow quickly, and it's what happens in the marketplace. You get in at the right time. If you're doing business in a market that is on the decline, that's like trying to surf with no waves, right? So it's we talk about this, that's a challenge. So now's the time. There's a wave growing with regenerative ag. So I think that's a great overview of kind of where we're at with regenerative ag. I think it'd be cool to kind of take a sidebar to end this by talking a little bit more about Nourished by Nature, I know that's your son Paul's deal, pretty close working with that. But just as far as what's happened this year, it's been a wild year with COVID. What are some of the biggest obstacles and challenges that you guys have had to overcome this year with the direct marketing?
Realize Nourished by Nature, as you said, is Paul's business, and he's direct marketing primarily in North Dakota, but he does ship throughout continental U.S. And that was moving along with steady growth. And then COVID hit, and it's like all of a sudden we couldn't keep up. The biggest challenge, realize where we're at in North Dakota, grass finishing is pretty seasonal, obviously.
Yep.
You know, we only have 110 frost-free days a year, so it's pretty seasonal. So we're harvesting the majority of our animals in that season in order to get peak nutrient content in those proteins. And we just quickly about ran out of product. And then the challenge became with finding the processors, et cetera. And, you know, our options, there just isn't that many in North Dakota. Now, happy to say we've worked through it, and we've been able to, if we're out of stock, it hasn't been for very long, so we've been able to supply. One of the nice things, our ranch is large enough, we can produce a lot of animals. And so we had the capacity already to fill excess demand. I would have to talk to Paul as far as increase, but minimum 500%.
Yeah, so you almost feel like that COVID does leapfrog you guys ahead at least 5 years. And really the whole industry, all of us in the direct marketing.
That's right. I've heard most people are up, 200 to 1,200% or even higher, And
And you compound that with the awareness that's coming with regenerative agriculture, plus what COVID has accelerated, not only with getting people thinking more about how to boost their immune system and what their diet has that kind of effect, but even just the awareness now with people who've bought perishables online, I think we were looking at a report from Kroger from a conference we were listening to virtually last week that I forget what the volume was that they're seeing that people ordering online, but just an incredible surge.
Yeah, and overnight, things like curbside and ordering online have become the norm. I mean,
people who originally never were going to try it just went their habit. We as people were people of habits. And there's just a certain amount of the population who just weren't going to order online. They were always going to go in the store. But once they make that first purchase online, they experience it and they know it works. Those habits, and a certain percentage of those people is going to be retained through this.
Convenience. They're going to experience the convenience.
Exactly. And for those wanting to head down the direct marketing path, I tell them this. I live in North Dakota, okay? North Dakota is a long way from about anywhere. And we can easily, successfully direct market to consumers' doors from our ranch in North Dakota. What were you saying? How many million customers do you have access to?
I think 44 million in our one-day ground FedEx zone.
Yeah.
What's your guys'?
We have 730,000 in the whole state. So, but think of it.
But you're doing it.
We can do it, and we're doing it successfully. And the thing of it is, it's profitable. It's a lot of work, but it's profitable. And there's real satisfaction that comes to providing value to your customers.
Yep. Well, what you work with a lot of beginning regenerative farms that are trying to make a transition. What are and there's a lot of farms that are going to be listening to this podcast that are going down that path. What are some of the biggest mistakes that maybe you see made by people just going down this path?
Yeah, there's a number of them, and I know this because we made them starting out. Some of the things we're not being well enough educated. Now, yes, you learn things along the way, but you really need to go seek out other farmers, ranchers who are direct marketing, learn from them. Yep. One of the things I like most about this regenerative movement is everyone's willing to share. It's almost totally opposite of the conventional agriculture,
Yep.
And that's a good thing. Learn from others. Why make the same mistakes? One of them is they try to get too big too fast. You have to build your customer base and then concentrate on a few enterprises to start.
Yep.
You know, too many people think they need everything from a goat to a duck to cattle, and boy, that's just
You get
asking for
overwhelmed.
problems.
Get overwhelmed,
It
and you
is.
lose. Yep.
You lose focus. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
And I like what you mentioned about, how folks in this industry are willing to share what's working and working well, because I think people overlook a lot just how much of a unfair advantage and benefit that is to those of us who are trying to do this, because other industries are not like that. We know from the software business of having GrazeCart, we've been to some industry conferences and some coaching events, and it's not the same.
They're
It's
entirely
cutthroat.
different. Everyone sits at the table. They're quiet. It's everything's
won't.
a secret.
No, you know, you're absolutely right. And it's a joy to help someone. And what's wrong with that? Why not help someone? There's plenty of customers for everyone.
Yep.
I never look at anybody as quote unquote competition.
We're in the beginning of this movement. The time everyone's gonna be better off to share the ideas and get further along in the beginning phases of this. We were talking about the power of shared ideas earlier today in the conference. So cool.
Yep.
Well, this has been awesome. Speaking of knowledge sharing and learning from folks in the industry, so you have the book. We'll put a link to that on the show,
For sure.
Wherever this episode is hosted.
Yep.
But we're understanding ag. Where can people learn more about what you guys do there?
Yeah, and how can they participate? You've got the Soil Health Academy.
Yep.
Give
so
the
the
options.
Soil Health Academy is our nonprofit educational arm, and they can come there for learning opportunities. We host these academies like we did this week at Seven Sons, and they're wonderful 3-day event, but we're also rolling out our first online course. Regen Ag 101 will be rolled out here in December. It's an affordable course. You can learn at your speed,
Yep.
so you can watch it anytime, and we're excited about that. There will be more of those to come. And then Understanding Ag, you can go to understandingag.com. That's our consulting arm, and you can look what we have to offer there.
And if you want to see what you guys are doing on the marketing side, it's Nourished by Nature.
.us.
Okay.
Nourishedbynature.us. Yes.
Okay, and the book that you and Alan are working on. When can we give us some inside information there?
We actually, when COVID hit, Alan and I were working on it a bit. Then it quickly became apparent we need an online academy because COVID was affecting the ability for people to travel and come to academies.
Yep.
So we had to switch our focus. The book's on hold for right now. Don't hold your breath, but it'll come down the road.
Okay. Any other things that what's the next 5 years for you guys?
Yeah, one of the things we're working on, both on Brown's Ranch, Nourished by Nature, Understanding Ag, Soil Health Academy, we're really working hard on the human health aspect. How do we take soil health, plant health, animal health, equate it to human health?
Yeah.
One of the things we've seen also from COVID is we have a large number of the medical communities, doctors, nurses, healthcare practitioners coming to us to learn about soil health and how does advanced soil health improve human health. And we're going to focus strongly on that.
Okay, that's exciting because that's a whole nother wave of influence is the medical community.
That's exactly
And we already know, you guys know from Nourished by Nature, we know from our business at Seven Sons, how many customers come to us because their integrative doctor told them they need to get healthier.
Right.
That's exactly right. And on that note, I'll just put a plug in. On our Understanding Ag website, we host a number of webinars. And one of our technical advisors is Sarah Keogh. She is a nutritionist who really focuses on the soil health, human health connection. And she'll be doing a webinar for us here in December. So feel free to listen into that one.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, great. We appreciate your friendship. We appreciate you being here in Roanoke this week, and the rest of the team at Understanding Ag and Soil Health Academy. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can attest to just, attending, two of the schools now here in the last 3 years, just the quality of the events that you guys put on and really the takeaways that people get from it, because that's always the question. Hey,
I love seeing the last day. Everyone is bright-eyed. They're just excited to get back home. They've learned so much. You can see it in their eyes.
They've learned so much, and then everyone expresses, the benefit of that. a lot of people feel alone. Then they join these schools and they leave with a community. And you guys really stress that too, which I like at the end of your schools, that it's something where now they're in the community, and when they have questions, there's people they can turn to.
Well, all of your team at Seven Sons, it was fantastic working with you this week, and we've got a real good relationship, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, thanks for joining. If you guys are listening to this and you've read Gabe's book, maybe just an ask for engagement, let us know what's the biggest insight you've received from Gabe's book, or maybe just wherever you've listened to Gabe before and what he's taught you about regenerative ag. Leave that in the comment section below.
Yep.
And thanks for listening. Gabe, we appreciate it, and we'll have to do this again.
I would love it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gabe.